So this is gonna be just a good old-fashioned psychological rant. Yeah. Uh, One of the bigger issues I remember having with these people who just kept terrorizing me was they have a thing about being mindless, and it goes back to the bicameral brain theory, and the whole thing is stupid because Greek and Romans were exposed to lead. It was in the water, so yes, they were bicameral because their brains were destroyed by lead. Okay, and lead knocks you out of your inhibitions, knocks you out of your peripheral nervous system, knocks you out of your emotions. It's a bad idea to drink lead. According to the church, the only good trait is psychopathy. Everything else is anxiety. Okay, and I would argue it makes you a lizard brain, and I think about the lizard brain because this is emotionally stunted it's like the core trait of the human brain's development. I'm going to read it one more time. Chronic self-absorption, self-preoccupied behavior. They think of themselves first, limited, complete lack of empathy, lack of guilt or remorse, disregard for your well-being and safety and those you love. They do what feels best. They do not learn from past mistakes and continue to repeat behaviors that have negative consequences. Lack of self-reflections, inability to take your perspective, stand in your shoes. History of conflict or drama in relationships. History of denying reality due to effective realism. Reality is what it feels like versus what it is. That one means if you drop LSD and you're in a bad situation, it's a good situation. History of distorting reality, making up new narratives or situations to deal with them. Lying or creating fake histories. History of impulsive behavior, more feeling than thinking, so they do what feels best. Remember when Stu stole the case of money and was like, oh boy, free car for Stu? Enmeshment in relationships instead of emotional intimacy. That means their relationships suck. May focus on physical things versus emotional. They do not do emotional work. They do not know how to repair relationships effectively. There you go. Now, emotionally stunted everybody. The desirable psychology of the church. In 1984, they talk about ignorance as strength, and I think being mindless is literally code for ignorance is strength, because a big part of being mindless is not thinking, it's not learning, it's not taking in anything, it is the absence of intelligence, okay? And there are times to be mindless, and there are times to be mindful, but I tend to do mindfulness, and these people do mindlessness. So we are contradictory in that aspect. We go in separate directions on those statuses. Another thing we go in separate directions in is entitlement versus gratitude. You cannot be entitled and have gratitude. They're two separate directions. Saying thank you versus give it to me. And let's talk about that. Gratitude always leads to disappointment, okay? Not gratitude, entitlement. Entitlement always leads to disappointment, okay? Every woman at the church complained to me that men were entitled, okay? Yeah, that's not a joke. And they kind of appreciated my soft way of talking to them, which is kind of sad because women don't like me, okay? I'm funny and shit, but women don't like me. And I remember the entitlement thing was a big issue with them because the men would just be like, give me sex, give me the dishes, give me. And whenever you hear that, I always think of a small child because children go through the me stages where they just want you to give them everything and they just scream, give it to me, give it to me. And the truth is they just need an ass whooping. And I would argue, once again, the church needs to employ somebody to just bash these people in the heads or have a fat Italian woman walk around smacking their hands every time they don't say please and thank you. Gratitude works way better when you're just thankful because you create joy in a simple thing. The other day I went for a walk and I actually found a Lego Pokeball. I guess somebody left it in a parking lot. I picked it up and it had a Pikachu in it and I put it together and I was kind of like, this is pretty cool. I was thankful for this Lego Pikachu Pokeball, okay? Like, I still have it. It's in the room over there. Like, Stu would have been like, I'm entitled to it! Give me it! It's mine! Dude, I can't really... like, seriously, these things are just... in my opinion, they're completely freaking ridiculous, and even the mentality behind them's even stupider. Because, like, the idea is 1984. I actually have the quote right here. The quote from 1984 is, "Freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. The best books are those that tell you what you already know. If you want to keep a secret, you also have to hide it from yourself." Like, the church is keeping secrets from you, and they're keeping them to keep them a secret from the secrets that are kept secret. Or, in other language, they're lying. Okay? The the serious smugness behind it is one of the things that absolutely kills me too. Is it is an art form, nonetheless, to convince somebody that being stupid is a good idea. Okay? Smart people come up with all the amazing things. They came up with this camera. They came up with lights. They came up with houses, believe it or not. At some point, a bunch of dumb assholes were just sleeping in the woods until somebody was like, fuck this shit, I'm building a house. And it probably didn't go over like that. Obviously, it wasn't just houses, you know. Everything has a developmental cycle. Whenever you look at history, it always starts out in the... I don't know what you call it, but it's like the sticks age, like where everything's made out of whatever the fuck you can find. I guess you could start out with the cave age. Everybody starts out in the caves, and then it gets into sticks, and then it gets into complex buildings with complex materials, stone and sticks, and then it gets into cement and gravel, and then eventually you enter the copper age, the bronze age, and then you get into the iron age, and then the steel age, like... and these ages go on and on. We live in the Cenozoic age. Yeah, there you go. What, you thought Jurassic Park? Yeah, that age is over. We live in the Cenozoic. Like, welcome to the Cenozoic, brother. And these guys in the bicameral brain theory goes back to Greeks and Romans had, they were mindless. It's funny because I remember Stu was like, well, they weren't mindless, but they didn't have minds, but they weren't mindless. No, they were mindless. They were mindless. Because in Stu's brain, complex thought is nuance. Thinking is nuance. You should never think. Okay? And this is mindlessness. And there's a time and a place for being mindless. You can be mindless. If you're good at video games, you can do something mindlessly, repetitively for hours. You guys ever watched a speedrunner speedrun? They do the same mindless activity for hours. I would argue you could probably just leave them in a room. I don't know why they sit in front of a designated chair in front of a computer screen. They should just be sitting on a toilet, sucking down tasteless, like, nutrient drinks and shitting nonstop and playing video games forever mindlessly, because apparently being mindless feels amazing. And I would argue it's the lead in the brain makes complex thought painful, because you're trying to use your brain and it's constantly being destroyed by lead. You probably don't like thinking complex, okay? And I've seen these people sometimes when them talking to me through inference and stuff, where randomly they just start making faces and their head starts twitching. And they start like looking like they're trying to squeeze out a turd, or they're constipated. They look like they're in pain. I've seen it happen literally talking to them. Gannon used to do it all the time. He'd ask me something, then he'd start getting like fucking twisted and weird. And then he'd be like, I'm normal. And I'd argue it's also why he's bald. Yeah, the Gannon guy's bald. Shocker. And a lot of these guys, their hair is going gray and their hair falls out and they go bald. Like, that's the lead in their brains. I'll tell you what, they're like, this is amazing. My brain's being destroyed. I hate intelligence. Like, dude, if you hate intelligence, go live in a cave. You don't have to ruin society. You can go be miserable by yourself. You don't have to immiserate everybody. Don't be a cunt, man. On the subject of, like, the versus mindfulness, where you're just paying attention to what you're doing. Okay? I have a lot of get it done psychology, and a lot of when you have the get it done psychology, you sometimes go full mindless. I can think of a handful of times where I was repairing something or fixing something and I left out a part. And I did that when I was a kid. Now that I'm an adult, I'm very mindful. I pay attention. I'll give you an example. My dumbass dad, he replaced a pulley on the Jeep and the fucking pulley was all fucked up and I didn't know what was wrong with it, so I took it apart and that idiot forgot to put a bushing on it. Okay. And I would argue these people in particular, a big issue with them is they live in the lizard brain. And the lizard brain is the core brain. Your outer brain is your halo brain. The halo brain's the complex thought brain. The halo brain, when you take tetraled, gets destroyed. Yeah, the halo brain. And think about that from a biblical standpoint. What's Jesus have? What angels have? They have halos. Which means, arguably, the outer part of your brain, the halo brain, is probably your goodness. And then when you drink lead, you kill your goodness and you become a psychopathic asshole. Okay? I'm reminded of this bizarre fact that I know that Fidel Castro had heavy metal poisoning, so he absolutely loved dairy. You know what? Don't Google that. That might not be true at all. I don't know why I just said that. I might have to clip that. Yeah, fuck it. I'll leave it in there. I got like 10 people who give a shit about these videos. So, in regards to these things, and like, if you're part of a cult or part of a religion and they tell you being mindless is a good idea, you should probably leave, okay? Imagine, if you will, for just a moment, NPCs in a video game. How would you describe an NPC in a video game? You know how I would describe them? Mindless. Yeah. Brother, these people's ways are beyond ours. In psychology, they actually talk about, for the longest time, they believed cats and dogs were mindless, but apparently cats have exceptionally complex thoughts, but they're aloof as fuck, so they don't exist in this reality. So your cat, even apparently when your cat's purring, it's actually meditating. Meaning your cat practices mindfulness actively in front of you. If you ever entered a room and your cat's just purring for no fucking reason, that little fucker's is reaching his own nirvana, his own plane of enlightenment, and becoming a superior enlightened being. He's ascended. Like, when you're mindless, you don't ascend, you're just mindless. And even, like I said, I always think about that shit, like the stuff about emotionally stunted. The thing that really kills me is dogs have introspective. When your dog's sitting there and he looks all sad, and you're like, oh man, my dog looks sad, why is he sad? He's thinking about the time he shit on the carpet and you whooped his ass for shitting on the carpet. Oh man, I shouldn't have shit on the carpet. What a stupid fucking thing to do. Like I said, the general prowess of these people, and dude, so many times, and the smugness that comes with it, like, I gotta admit, these people's ability to put their brains on lockdown and refuse to learn anything new, anything intelligent, and even says, like, emotionally stunted people, they can't learn. Like, you can't teach them unless you traumatize them first. You have to start by blowing off a leg and then explaining to them they're not allowed to shit on the floor. You can't just spank them like you spank a dog and tell it not to shit on the floor. Like, they're gonna keep doing it until you mutilate them. And then when they're mutilated, they're gonna bitch and scream, and then they're gonna learn. And you're just like, why does it gotta be that way, dude? Why can't you be normal? Like, so yeah, these two things are huge counter-intuitive parts in my brain versus these people's brains. And I remember even my cuddle buddy was... something about my mindfulness made her anxious, which... Okay. Like, in regards to dealing with other people, like, fucking common sense is the final developmental stage in life. If you don't have common sense, you never developed mentally. It never happened for you. Okay? You're an idiot, okay? And you should be ashamed that you never reached these levels of development, all right? And whenever I use common sense, like, people get mad at me. There is something about common sense that pisses people off, and it's how fast. I think one part of it is how fast my common sense will kick in. In a situation, it always makes me giggle a whole lot. When it does happen, because I'll just be like, dude, that's common sense, you don't do that, and somebody's just, oh, oh no, he knew, like, yeah, it was a dumbass idea, like I said. These are just my thoughts on the subject, and the ideologies are completely opposed, and I would argue, like, I remember my cuddle buddy was absolutely terrified of getting kicked out of the church. She was, like, willing to do anything to make sure that she wasn't ostracized or removed from the church. It was just everything in her and even the other members are just so obsessed with being members, and you're like, you guys just terrorize people and murder people. Like, what are you afraid of losing? The misery machine? Like, I don't know. I think the truth about human nature, and it's something Stu knows, and it's something I know, and I would argue that because both of us know this, we, in a way, are just opposing sides that understand the same reality. Everybody wants to be loved and respected. Okay? Everybody wants to be loved and respected, and Stu knows if he doesn't respect you, you'll try to make him respect you, like, or whatever the fuck, and if you withhold love from Stu, he'll chase it like the dog he is, like, I just, yeah. If Stu wants respect, how's he gets it? He threatens you. Okay. Yeah, that's how that's done. I don't know. These are just my thoughts on the subject, my mindfulness of what I'm doing. I remember telling these idiots I worked with, because they were doubting the whole ignorance is strength, the mindlessness, to me at work, and I just kind of froze and then was like, never mindlessly. I was like, and these people love murdering, and that's something that really annoys me, because killing somebody should never be mindless. Okay? You shouldn't be killing people to begin with, but you shouldn't be mindless about murdering people for sure. Okay? And I remember Stu talking about, like, the whole, like I said, they're trying to take it in the ass, both mentally and physically and emotionally. Like, they just take it in the ass, and they do whatever they're told, and Stu can... I remember Stu telling me that he's literally just decided he didn't like somebody, lied, told the church people that this guy's a piece of shit or whatever, and they just went and terrorized him until he killed himself. Like, and... One, there should be laws about this. It shouldn't be a thing, okay? I think if you use your church authority to literally just terrorize some random person, there should be laws about it. Like, I don't know, just my mindful thoughts on the subject, you know? Crazy, mindful, how arrogant of him to use his brains. What a jerk. That thing that was given to him by his birthright. What a jerk.